Shalom Israel, first and foremost, all praise, honor, and glory to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. Double honors to the apostles and the elders of the house of David. Salutations to you brothers throughout the four corners of the earth, teaching the truth and righteousness and sincerity to you Israelite foreigners. Come back home to the truth. To those that passed on serving the Lord, the dead in Yahweh Shai shall arise first. All right, I'm not praying or prophesying, so I'm going to keep my hat on. But just want to talk about the new wave I'm on. Not new wave, but like, you know, when you're in this truth, it's a constant search for knowledge. And I've recently tapped back into those old Pan-African, I guess, I'm not gonna say demons, because it's not demons, or neither is there a bad reason for it. But I've recently started looking into the old Pan-African wave that I've been in, you know, that I was on before I came into the truth. And I realized something about it. I understand why or what the deal is with Pan-Africanism. Pan-Africanism is the idea that all people come from Africa. The problem with that is it's the assumption, the real thing that I want to discuss about it is it's the assumption that all people of color, being of color, having thick lips and having kinky hair, comes from Africa. And with all that, because also yesterday I was invited to, because when I was in college I was in the Pan-African Student Union. I was invited to a virtual Kwanzaa ceremony, which, if you really look at what they're doing, it's demonology, but they don't know what they're doing. I would even argue the gentleman, I'm gonna call him a gentleman because I know him personally, he's a good person, but he doesn't know, I don't think he knows what he's fooling with. But you know, the whole, you know, pouring out libation to get right with the ancestors and things like that, like Ashe, he kept saying Ashe while he was pouring the libation, and you know, things of that nature. You know, and I've come to realize that because the assumption with Pan-Africanism is that all people of color, everything that comes with being of color originates in Africa. That's the reason why they ignore a lot of things that prove otherwise. Because if you study anthropology, you know for a fact that the first civilizations sprouted up in the Middle East, not in Africa. Now, the question becomes, do you consider the Middle East Africa? Because according to the map that I was taught since I was a little kid, the Middle East is in Asia. It's part of Asia, technically. Even though, to be honest, even that doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense to put the Middle East in the continent of Asia, because Asia's further east. You know, but nonetheless, even if you're gonna put the Middle East in Africa, right? Because let's say it's an extension of Africa, because technically it was inhabited by Hamites. You know, Babylon is in the Middle East, and Babylon was ran by Hamites. So one can make an argument that it's part of Africa, but at the end of the day, the assumption is based on the wrong landmass. Humanity comes from the Middle East. That's where you read it in Galatians 4:26, where it says that Jerusalem, which is free, is the mother of us all. Right? And then also when you do the knowledge, when you do the history, you know, we pretty much teach the same thing historically that Pan-African people teach. We agree that the original people of India, China, Japan, Fiji are all people of color. It's just that according to the teachings that we believe in, there's specifications about the people of color, because all people of color are not the same. You know, the so-called white man, they're just one nation that came out without color. Other than that, that's the only thing that sets them, well, spiritually, a lot of things set them apart, but the so-called white man, Esau, they have different, they're only one of many nations. There's a ton of nations on this earth. And, you know, Elam, and when you watch them break it down, when you watch them speak about it, it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense. It's just that you have to sift through the idea that Pan-Africanists say that all people of color come from Africa. If you take that out of the equation and you actually listen to who's who, according to their philosophy, they'll say things like, oh, the original people of this land were African. No, they were Japhites. They were people of color. Ham, Shem, and Japheth all had color. You know? But you're not dealing with color, and that's the problem. Because all they're doing is judging according to appearance. When you look at the whole thing, everything, you know, even when KRS One, because just to give y'all a little bit of background on what got me talking about this, I also watched Hidden Colors. I started watching part 2. I'm not done with it, but as I'm watching it, I'm seeing that they're talking about civilizations of color, but they're not telling you specifically where they originate. They just automatically assume that because they have color, they're from Africa. They want to make Africa the center of everything, hence Afrocentricity. Africa at the center. You know, Afrocentrism, Pan-Africanism, all. Pan means all Africanism. Everything goes back to Africa when it doesn't. You know what I'm saying? It goes back to Israel. Now, of course, you could sit here and have a shouting match between us and Pan-Africans and say, well, who's who? You know, we could say everything started in Israel. They could say everything started in Africa. The thing is, the thing that you realize is that, okay, why are the original people of Asia slanty-eyed? And I'm not saying that to be an asshole. Like, really, why do they have that trait? And other African people, or people that they say are of the African diaspora, don't have that trait. Or even Japhites, even, you know, the Pacific Islanders and things like that. Like, every race is different. Every race is accounted for in the Bible. All people. And, you know, they all have different types, different body types, different hair, different skull types. You know, and the thing is about people of color, so-called Black and Hispanic and Native Americans, when you really look at the differences among all the so-called dark races, why are we so similar? To the extent where it's really hard to get a Chinese person out of most Hispanic and Black and Native American people. It's really hard to get an African person. Like, we might have similarities, but we don't really look exactly, you know what I'm saying? Like if you go to Africa with a boatload of Haitian people, Africans will be able to tell the difference between themselves and the so-called Haitians. Africans will be like, we are not the same, I am a Martian. I'm being funny, but, you know, Africans know the difference. You know, who won't know the difference is us, because we're looking for similarities. We're looking to be African. You know, but in effect, we're not, in truth, we're not African. You know, we are a people that fled to Africa in captivity. You know, even Africans know themselves that Africa is not originally called Africa. Because they'll say, you know, according to, I forgot which scholar named it Al-Kibulon. He said that it was originally called, or the whole land of Africa was originally called Ethiopia, which means burnt face. But these are all European terms, except for Al-Kibulon. But everything else was pretty much European terminology. But the fact of the matter is, when you go into Pan-Africanism, all you have to do is use your truth eye, meaning knowing you have your filter of the Bible to know, okay, this nation is not African. These people are not African. These strong African features are not really African features. They're Israelite features, or this nation is Ham or Moab. You know what I mean? And you have to do that with the truth. You have to do that when you research and when you read about all these other, philosophies and things, because that's how they get us into Pan-Africanism. All things come from Africa. No, they fucking don't. But anyway, with that, I'm going to say shalom.